Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I want to talk about a touchy subject, but I think it's important. And I do want to help you guys, which is why I make these videos. Why single mothers can sometimes struggle to raise sons and even daughters. This is not an insult to single mothers or mothers in general or single fathers or fathers in general. I'm not blaming single parents. This is a very deep issue and it has a lot of variables to it. And those variables can be addressed with many different angles. And I'm actually not going to touch on those angles today. I'm just addressing something like a pattern that sometimes occurs. It's not even with every case. But the reason why I'm addressing it is because if this is something you've experienced, you're not alone. And I just want to give you that information. That's really the main goal of this video, okay? And often this comes from mothers and fathers, but we're talking more about mothers today. It comes from a good place, but I think sometimes it works against the son or the daughter to some extent. So mothers in general, what I've noticed, the first one is that some mothers are too afraid to discipline their kids or tell the kids the reality in order to make their lives easier. And so even when there's a two-parent household, what happens is the mother sometimes, I notice, is much more lenient on her son or her daughter because she doesn't want to hurt her kid's feelings. So she's like really easy with the child. But what happens is a lot of times the father might balance that. He might be more hard on the kid, right? And because of that, the child is able to have a balance between what's safe and comfortable or where they need to start stepping up. But if the father is not there, sometimes what happens is the mother is either too afraid to discipline their kid or they over-discipline to try and overcompensate for the lack of the other parent. And this creates a complex relationship with the son and how he views himself, how he views his peers, and how he views his identity, particularly his masculine perspective or like his identity as a man. This might not be as prominent with daughters because her identity is still going to correlate a little bit with her mother because they're both the same gender. In society, sometimes that works. Like social psychology, sorry. I'm a little bit all over the place today. I had a pretty busy day. A lot of times gender roles influence how we view ourselves and our identity. But if you have one mother and you don't know your father or you don't have that connection with him and you're a man, you're kind of missing that identity that you would pick up from your father. And that's why this one won't happen as much with daughters. The next one is sons struggle to find a role model because they don't have a father that they either respect or who's there or they're not close. Maybe their father has rejected him to some extent emotionally. And so he struggles to find role models. And these role models come in a lot of different patterns. His role model might be his mother, to which he becomes a little bit different from his other peers who grew up with their role model as their father, right? And this can happen with women as well, and it kind of makes for a unique individual. I'm a person who, I think some of you guys know that, I'm more of like what people would call like a daddy's girl. And you can probably tell by my mannerism and how I talk. If you watch a lot of my videos, you can probably tell I'm a little bit different than the average female in terms of peers. Of course, I have some similarities, but there are some differences. And a lot of that is because probably me and my dad are close, but also when we were growing up, he had a lot of expectations for me that he didn't have with other daughters. And so that probably shifted the way I grew up and became, right? It's not a bad thing, but it's just true. And sons, if you don't have a role model, you might do that same thing that I did with my dad with your mom, except you don't have a dad, right? I had a mom and a dad. And so you might not have that balance. And so sometimes what happens is you might be interested in hobbies that other boys might reject you for, or you might not understand how to emotionally express yourself that's acceptable in society. And so you feel rejected as a man. And that can be very harmful and hurtful. And this can make it even more harder because then what happens is sometimes these men resent their mothers because they feel like they can't get girlfriends or make friends with other people or can't join sports or whatever it is because they feel like that complex relationship is affecting him. The next one is sometimes mothers. Actually, this one's a really important one. Mothers don't understand the struggles of young boys. Young boys just have different things. They do different things and different from young girls. And sometimes a mother might think something that her son is doing is abnormal when in actuality it's normal for a boy, right? And this is not, I'm not saying anything bad about men or women. I'm just saying from a biological perspective and a psychological perspective, young boys developmentally act differently than young girls. But if a mother does not know that because she didn't experience that herself, she may discipline her son for something that is completely normal. And he might think, what's wrong with me? I'm so strange. And he may reject his own masculine identity because of this. And this can really affect him. A really common example, I don't know if this is common with every family, so maybe I don't understand, but really common. I remember like elementary school, middle school, high school, a lot of boys would get into like fights. It was pretty uncommon for girls, but boys, it's like almost all the time. Some boy hit another boy, fist fight, some sort of fight. It's like in the hallway, it happened in the morning, and sometimes it's like everyone's like crowding around trying to figure out what goes on. And most of the time, they were boys. And this is normal. Like there's nothing, maybe there's something going on with them, but it's not like, oh, this person is like a really abnormal, strange kid. No, he's a high schooler. Or like two brothers, they like punch each other or whatever. I know this happens. Maybe it's not that common, but I definitely have seen it, right? And it's not like these two boys are like really not normal kids. There's something going on with them. No, maybe there's some discipline action, sure, but it's not like he's like a complete outcast. This is not like a weird case. They're like that. Girls don't do that as much, right? And maybe a mother won't know that. So she might be like completely freaking out. Oh my God, my son got into this fight. What's happening? He's becoming like a delinquent. Whereas a father might say something a little bit more reasonable because he remembers he did that too. And so that makes a difference with how the son frames himself because he starts understanding I'm normal. Whereas the mother, without her realizing it, she might frame it as there's something wrong with you. And he might start believing there's something wrong with him when it's not entirely true. And the last one is tricky. All of these are, and these are all just specific cases, but some mothers put their emotional stress onto their son as a pseudo-husband role. So this is obviously sounds a little weird, but it is common. And a lot of you guys might even be in this situation. You kind of played the role, like maybe your dad left, whatever the case is, and you played the role of your absent father for your mom. So you did certain things probably a little bit early. Maybe a lot of the other boys in your class, they were not comforting their mother about the fact that her husband left, right? But you might have been doing that some nights, even though you're also the kid who was abandoned, but you're still there for her because you have to take on that role to some extent. Maybe you were mowing the lawn way earlier than all the other kids in your class or school or your friends, right? Maybe other people were going out and playing outside or playing video games or whatever it is, but you couldn't because maybe you had responsibilities that you had to do around the house because you don't have a dad and your mom is a single mom and she's leaning on you. And I'm not blaming her like I had mentioned, but these behaviors, why this video is important because it affects the way a man sees himself. And then when you want to have your own family, you start with these roots. The understanding that young girls have and now adult women is that they think men are like all the other boys that they grew up with or all the other men that now they're talking to, like their father, like their brother. But you had a unique case. And so you might not fit into that. And that could be one reason why women don't understand you because you had a specific case that she did not recognize. And there are ways to resolve it, and one of the best ways is to learn, socializing more, getting to know people more, accepting that this happened to you, and trying to learn masculinity or whatever you want to call it, your own identity from other sources, and vet them out if they're healthy or not. You don't want to watch some, I don't know, maybe some streamer. I don't even know what you guys do. I'm sorry. I wish I knew better. You guys can tell me. I don't know. Some masculine, hyper-masculine guy on some YouTube or streamers or whatever it is. And maybe he's single and he's been single for like 40 years. And that's fine. Some men are like that. But maybe you want a family. So maybe he's not the best role model for you because you want something different than he turned out to be, right? And so learning where you get your role models from and who you want to be. If you want to be a husband, you want to be a father, find role models that are husbands and fathers. That's where you want to find yourself because unfortunately you have to pick up slack from your dad who maybe wasn't there or wasn't that great and your mom who was struggling or maybe she wasn't that great. I'm not trying to judge, I'm just trying to help. So I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.